Rome. Where to start? How to introduce the world's greatest ancient city with all its historic monuments, beautiful spacious squares, old winding streets, and innumerable white marble and gilded churches from the Renaissance. Probably we should let the legend lift the curtain hiding the past from us, so that we could witness the birth of this fascinating city. After the Trojan War, the hero named Aeneas arrived to Italy to rebuild his people's future there in around 1250 BC. It is not possible anymore to see what he built. In 753 BC, the city was founded by Romulus. As he was constructing a wall around the Palatine to mark the boundaries of his city, his twin brother Remus criticized Romulus's work and jumped over the wall, insulting the city's defenses and their creator. Romulus killed his twin brother and said that everyone who decided to attack the city would suffer the same fate. Romulus built the so-called huts in the 8th century BC on the Palatine Hill. These are called the Huts of Romulus, after their creator, and are still visible today. After that, the Cloaca Maxima was made in the 6th century BC, the sewers of the city, which allowed people to live a healthier and longer life. The city of Rome was built along the river Tiber, where Romulus and Remus were found by the Lupa, who was either a wolf or a prostitute. Piazza Navona, once the old circus of the Mission, used for chariot races, is a square with a so-called spina comprised of 3 fountains, with Bernini's Four Rivers fountain in the middle, overlooked by one of Borromini's churches. The rivers represented on Bernini's fountain are the Ganges, the Nile, the Plate, and the Danube, symbolizing Asia, Africa, America, and Europe respectively. The Trevi fountain, standing 25.9 meters high and 19.8 meters wide, is the largest Baroque fountain in the city. It shows ocean with salubrity and abundance at its sides, along with 2 Triton figures leading seahorses out of foam. The fountain was designed by Nicolas Salvi in 1762. The Capitoline Museums are the oldest ones in the entire world. They hold many artifacts, for example the bronze she-wolf with Romulus and Remus, made in the 5th century BC by the Etruscans, a statue of Venus, a mosaic of dramatic masks depicting comedy and tragedy, many busts of famous ancient philosophers, parts of statues, an example of which could be the giant head of Constantine's statue that is found near the entrance to the museums. There are a lot of other artifacts that include relief panels, paintings, carvings, and many other antiques. The Forum is situated right next to the Capitoline Museums. It is bordered by the Capitol Hill, the Colosseum, and the Palatine Hill. The Forum consists of the Curia, which was the Senate House of Rome, dating from the 3rd century AD, Curtius's Lake, which is a place where a plaque stands, commemorating the myth of Curtius, near an olive tree, a vine tree, and a fig tree, which is where the cradle of Romulus and Remus was supposedly found. The Arch of Septimius Severus, which was erected to celebrate victories over the Parthians and the creation of a new Mesopotamian province. The Umbilicus, which in English means navel, was originally the center of Rome. It stood next to the golden milestone, from which all distances were calculated. The Rostra, meaning prows of ships, which is a very large raised platform from that speakers addressed the people of Rome. The Temple of Caesar, which was erected in 29 BC by Augustus in order to acknowledge Julius Caesar as a god. The Temple of Vesta, which is a round temple devoted to Vesta, the goddess of the hearth. The House of the Vestal Virgins, which is next to the Temple of Vesta, and which housed the cult dedicated to Vesta. The Via Sacra, along which triumphal processions went, stretches through the Forum from west to east. The Arch of Titus, which was built after the emperor's death in AD 81 to honor Titus as an emperor and to commemorate his major victories in Israel. The Palatine Hill is one of the original 7 hills of Rome and is the place where Romulus supposedly killed Remus. One of the palaces that are situated on the Palatine Hill is the Missions Palace. It included the Domus Flavia, which was designed by Rabirius and built from AD 81 to AD 96. It contains colonnaded gardens, which are called peristyles. Earlier, in the place of the big octagonal structure in the middle, there was a fountain. It is possible to see the Circus Maximus from the Domus Augustana. The Circus Maximus was a chariot racetrack built by Emperor Trajan. At the middle of the circus is a long central section called the Spina. The circus used to be the world's greatest racetrack, but now it's just all covered in grass. Next to the Domitian's Palace is a small stadium that is approximately 145 meters long. However, archaeologists still aren't sure if this was a stadium. It might have been a type of an ornamental garden that was shaped like a racetrack. Nearby is the House of Livia that was built between 75 and 50 BC. Livia, as we all know, was the wife of the first emperor Augustus. The Arch of Constantine has similar relief panels to the ones seen in the Capitoline museums. Depictions of Marcus Aurelius's face were recycled to ones of Constantine's face, which tells us that the monument we see now is not original. As we all know, the Roman Empire became Christian during the reign of Constantine in AD 313. He did this with one purpose only, to unite the empire. Towards the middle of the arc there are relief panels of Nike that were turned into Christian angels. Near the Arch of Constantine stands the most famous amphitheater of the world, the Colosseum. Vespasian began constructing it in AD 70 and died before the project was finished. His son Titus completed building it in AD 80. It was the largest stadium in the Roman Empire that was built to allow Romans to watch gladiators fight to the death and Christians being fed to the wild animals that were kept captive. The Colosseum is 190 meters long along the west-east axis and 160 meters long along the north-south axis. It was initially around 50 meters high and had a capacity of approximately 50,000 people. At the top of the amphitheater there would have been posts, which allowed a canvas awning to be stretched over the spectators, protecting them from the elements. There were 80 numbered archways, allowing the spectators to access the Colosseum easily. Galleries would have run along the inside of the exterior wall of the amphitheater. All of the emperors sat in their own private box, where a cross now stands to commemorate the Christians who were needlessly killed at this place. The Vestal Virgins also would have had their own private box. Senators, equestrians, ordinary citizens, women and slaves would have sat in ascending order, with the ones who had the greater status closest to the arena. The word arena in Latin actually means sand. The entire stage of the Colosseum was covered in it in order to absorb the blood. Underneath the wooden, sand-covered stadium floor there is a complex system of tunnels and cages, which were used to house the gladiators, victims, and animals before they would have been brought to the ground level using a system of pulleys and ropes, surprising the spectators by their quick appearing. Opposing gladiators would have entered from the west and the east side of the arena respectively, saluting the emperor, Nos moritori salutamus, meaning, we who are about to die salute you. After the battle, the emperor would decide whether the losing gladiator should be killed or not. St. Peter's Basilica is in the modern-day Vatican City in the center of Rome. It is built on the site where Saint Peter was crucified upside down, as he considered himself unworthy to die in the same way as Jesus. Originally, there was a church here built by Constantine in AD 324, before Pope Julius II ordered the construction of the modern-day basilica, which required the use of multiple architects such as Bramante, da Sangallo, Raphael, Michelangelo, Bernini, and Maderno, to allow the completion of the world's largest and perhaps most impressive church. The Piazza San Pietro is the massive annular precinct confined by two monumental arms, each consisting of a colonnade 4 pillars deep, which, interestingly enough, viewed from one of the two certain points on the piazza, seem just 1 column deep. Above front steps and entrance to the church, there is a balcony from which the Pope addresses the crowd below and the watching world. The giant interior of the church is able to hold 60,000 people, being 211 meters long. Bramante's design, however, originally had all 4 wings of equal lengths, but in the 17th century Bernini elongated one of the naves. At the right of the entrance of the church there is a sculpture by Michelangelo, the Pieta, which shows Virgin Mary holding her dead son's body that has been taken down from the cross. This piece of work was completed in 1500. A bit closer to the altar, on the right, there is a bronze statue of Saint Peter that was made in the 13th century by Arnolfo di Cambio. In the middle is the baldacchino, or the canopy, standing 29 meters high, which was made by Bernini out of bronze that was taken from the porch roof of the Pantheon. It was finished in 1633 and has the emblems of the Barberini family in the shape of bees. Under the canopy is the tomb of Saint Peter. At the altar there is the Saint Peter's chair, made out of bronze that may perhaps contain the relics of a chair that was actually used by Saint Peter. This bronze group was finished in 1666 by Bernini. The centerpiece is a window with a dove in it, which symbolizes the Holy Spirit. Michelangelo designed the dome and worked on it until his death in 1564. The dome was finished in 1593. It has depictions of Christ and apostles on it, and at the top of the main cupola, the words in Latin saying Pope Sixtus V for the glory of Saint Peter. The poet Horace lived through the Civil War and was a member of the Liberators. A villa at a place called Licenza was constructed for the poet during the reign of Augustus. He was given the villa by Maecenas, who was following Augustus's idea to support the writers creating poetry. The area around the villa is very beautiful, with a green valley in the Sabine Hills and a fountain. This fountain might be the original Fons Bandusiae, which Horace described in Odes 3:13. In Satires 2:6, Horace writes about his Sabine villa. Hoc erat in votis, modus agri non ita magnus, hortus ubetecto, vicinus iugis aquae fons, et Paulum Silvae, super his foret, meaning, this was what I prayed for, a bit of land, not too big, a garden with an ever-flowing spring near the house, and to cap it all, a small bit of woodland. Hadrian's villa at Tivoli is a huge complex, with 2 sets of baths, a poikile, a canopus, several libraries, a small island, a hospital, several squares, an academy, temples to various gods, like the Temple of Venus, and many other buildings, including even a Greek theater. The villa was built between AD 126 and 134. It provided the emperor an escape from the busy and noisy city life, as well as an escape from his personal troubles. The poikile is a large walled garden with a pool in the middle and a colonnade along it. There are 2 sets of baths at the complex, the small baths and the big baths, that were big and massive structures with high and curved ceilings that allowed the condensing water to run down the walls and not drop on the bathers. The canopus was a section of a canal with statues of caryatids on its sides. The emperor had two libraries, one for Greek and one for Latin writings. There is a small round island at this villa that has only one bridge connecting it to the surrounding land. It is said that slaves used to turn this island so that nobody could go on it, providing the Emperor Hadrian with even more privacy. Some of the buildings are now covered in grass, but can still be clearly seen, like the Academy on one side of the villa or like the Greek theatre at the other side of the complex. We will now come back to the city of Rome, to one of the monuments reconstructed by Hadrian. The Pantheon was originally built in 27 BC by Marcus Agrippa as a temple to all the gods, before its destruction in a fire in AD 80. Consequently, Domitian rebuilt it until it was once again destroyed in AD 110. Hadrian then rebuilt the Pantheon to what we can see today. Marcus Agrippa's name is still visible on the inscription, despite it having been rebuilt twice, which is considered unusual. The interior is the largest in the ancient Roman world, measuring 44 meters in diameter and 44 meters in height. There are 7 recesses, of which the middle one is an altar. The second one to the right of the entrance is the tomb of Victor Emmanuel II, and the second one to the left of the entrance being the tomb of Raphael, the famous Renaissance painter. The oculus, which means eye or source of light, is the name which has been given to the hole in the ceiling measuring 9 meters in diameter. This hole hasn't been and still isn't covered, allowing sun and rain to enter inside the Pantheon for the past 2,000 years. Trajan's markets, which opened in AD 110 as the emperor wanted to honor his own reign by using money the Romans had won during the Dacian campaigns, rise up above the Forum from the Quirinal Hill. The markets are made up of arcades and apartment buildings. The Via Biberatica, which means the Street of Spices, is behind the main entrance of the market. In front of the markets, Trajan's Forum can be found, which was built in AD 112. Trajan's Column was built in AD 113 to commemorate the emperor's 2 victorious campaigns in Dacia, from AD 101 to AD 106, and stands about 38 meters high. The column is made out of 17 drums, fitted together, and is nowadays one of the most important sources of information about how the Roman army operated. Originally, at the top, there would have stood a statue of Trajan, before it was removed in 1587 on the orders of Pope Sixtus V to be replaced by a statue of Saint Peter with a halo holding the key to heaven. We hope that this short film has woken up your interest for ancient cultures. As you probably already noticed, the monuments described in the film were, of course, not the only ones found in Rome. Our film was just an invitation, a key which the spectator has to take in his hand and with which he would open the door of history, with many amazing cultures behind it, and discover a new but fascinating and breathtaking world of ancient Rome.